it's rolling. Do you want to just put it there, or do you want to put it next to you?
Hi everybody, it's Litsoc, it's Thursday. We are down on the riverside at the garden that Surbiton High have taken over to help out the volunteers of Queen's Promenade, and we've got literally the bit called Queen's Promenade. If you're not sure where it is, it's just beyond Ginger Bees, the local cafe, which is not open all the time but certainly open this afternoon, and ice creams and coffee and tea are being enjoyed, and we've got wildlife and a wonderful afternoon of sunshine. So this week we are talking about gardens in literature, and Miss Huntley will begin. That's me, of course, and then various other members of Litsoc, including Miss Humphreys and various other people. Welcome back, Annabelle. Lovely to see you. Will join in. Well, of course, everybody. The first garden that it really appears in British literature is actually not from a book of fiction at all. It's the Garden of Eden, where God planted a garden, and it included the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. And then we get the snake, familiar to Macbeth, people who are studying Macbeth, hey Marianne, and the serpent under that innocent flower. Oh, here are the swans. It's all downhill from Eden. If you've seen Good Omens, then you know the story, the flaming sword and being banished from.
And also context for Omam.
Context for Omam,
George
yes,
Milton,
absolutely. Paradise Lost, and also the clearing is a sort of paradise. Yes, absolutely. So that's sort of my starting point. And of course, where the Garden of Eden was set is at the confluence of rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Very fertile, not so much now, but what was called the Fertile Crescent. And the Garden of Eden would have been probably a bit like the gardens of the Alhambra in Granada, if anybody's been there. An oasis of waters, planting. Josie, you been there?
I went there last summer.
Oh, how lovely. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And basically a garden, a paradise, a Persian or Arabian garden. Okay, but so I've digressed down to Mesopotamia, as it used to be called, and I'm coming back to The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. Everybody familiar with this? Yes? Okay. And of course, this is a tale of war, conflict between Mr. McGregor and Peter Rabbit, who is very naughty, and as his mother goes out, and as she says, "Now run along and don't get into mischief, I am going out." So, Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries, but Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. And then, of course, he gets chased around the garden. He rushes, he's almost trapped under a sieve. If you don't know what a sieve's used for in the garden, it's to make sure that if you're planting seeds, it's so that the soil hasn't got any stones in it. And then he goes into rushes into the tool shed, jumped into a can, a watering can. There's a lovely illustration. Okay. Beatrix Potter's lovely watercoloured paintings. And of course he sneezes, and so Mr. McGregor rushes after him again, and eventually he gets out with the help of sparrows and because he spies a gate. And then of course he leaves behind his beautiful blue coat, having eaten a lot of the crops, and which he does not bring home for his mother, and he goes to bed with chamomile tea, 1 tablespoonful to be taken at bedtime, because he doesn't have any blackberries, because he's a naughty bunny. When there's a story of Gervase Finn, who writes about being a school inspector in the Lake District, and of course across most of Britain everybody's on the side of Peter Rabbit if you're a little one. I got this when I was 3 years old. But in the Lake District, there was a child who said that rabbit was really naughty, eating all those crops, much to the disconcerting sort of amazement of Gervais Finn, because he came from the south. But of course, he is a naughty little rabbit. That's of course vegetable gardening, although there are plants in pots as well. Okay. Somebody else is going to talk about The Secret Garden, which was another garden book that I had as a child. So I won't talk about too much to say, except that in that book, gardens begin in the heat and then become, in Yorkshire, a source of healing and solace and rebirth. I'm sure Hannah will talk a bit more about that. So, a little bit later than The Secret Garden is E. Nesbit's The Enchanted Castle. Now, I'm a great fan of E. Nesbit. I've talked about her before, and it occurred to me last night. This is an extremely funny book as well, because all sorts of things happen. This enchanted castle has a very beautiful garden, but all sorts of things happen in it. So E. Nesbit had her home for a while in Sydenham, near the site, the park where the Great Exhibition had been, the Crystal Palace, before it finally burnt down in the 1950s. And in that park were a series of sculptures. They were actually, I think, in concrete, of dinosaurs. They're still there. You can still go and see them. Anyway, she transposes those dinosaurs into this garden, and they come alive at night, and the statues come alive at night as well, and other things come alive, like pretend people who they end up calling the Ugly Wugglies, who terrify the children out of their wits. And as it says, and it is a magic ring that seems to be the centre of this magic. And there's a romance, and there's all sorts of shenanigans going on, and lies, and people not telling the truth for various different reasons, and children have to there's no parents, but there is a governess. It's very E. Nesbit in that respect, if you've read any of hers before. So here we are in the magic garden. The sun had died away behind the black trees and the moon was rising. Mabel has been enchanted. She's become a giant. So they've covered her up. And meanwhile, inside the Dinosaurus, Kathleen, alive in her marble, slept too. Kathleen has become a statue. And she swims with the statues, the mythological beings, the gods, like Aphrodite and Artemis, and the kindly gods as well. Oh yes, Phoebus Apollo too. Here we are. So here we are. Twigs cracked and broke as the Dinosaurus pushed through a belt of evergreen oaks. Gravel crunched ground beneath its stony feet. Then stone met stone. There was a pause, a splash. They were close to water, the lake where by moonlight Hermes fluttered and Janus and the Dinosaurus swam together. Kathleen dropped swiftly through the hole onto the flat marble that edged the basin, rushed sideways and stood panting in the shadow of a statue's pedestal. Not a moment too soon, because the Dinosaurus goes under the water, and then she meets all the gods and has a wonderful time, and all sorts of things happen in this extraordinary enchanted castle, where wishes come true, and then eventually they have to use the ring to find the treasure. So, what else have I got with me? I've got a book, a modern book, Anne Lawrence, who I have talked about before, The Half Brothers. Now, Anne Lawrence always bases her books on something either ancient folklore or magic, or something that both children will understand, will appreciate, but if they don't get the allusions. But in this case, it's all to do with this picture. Un Monceau Désir is the name of the picture. It's actually a tapestry in the Musée de Cluny. And Tracy Chevalier wrote a book called The Lady and the Unicorn, and it's all about the manufacture of this tapestry. There are lots of different tapestries, and they're called The Lady and the Unicorn, and they're to do with the five senses. But this book, The Half Brothers, is using that, and her epigraph is Un Monceau Désir, and it's from Francis Bacon, whose essays I seem to have lost somewhere in the library that is
your library.
My library.
Your
and
labyrinth library.
Yeah, my labyrinth library. And because the breath of flowers is far sweeter in the air, where it comes and goes like the warbling of music, than in the hand, therefore nothing is more fit than that delight, than to know what be the flowers and plants that do best perfume the air. And Bacon talks about gardens as being the last craft that people tend to learn. And I wasn't always a gardener. I came to it later. My mum always gardened. I don't know whether you're all gardening or have a garden or not. Perhaps you'll tell us. But Ambra, who is the hero of this story, she gets involved with her cousins, the four half-brothers of a kingdom called Bergamo, of which there is actually there is a town in Italy, city in Italy called that. And they're all the characters are called after some form of plant. So we have Gabriel Oakmoss, who's the gardener. We have Prince Clovis, who it turns out is a good egg. Ambra gets involved with all sorts of things that they're interested in, like poetry, music, philosophy, politics. And so it's not just a story about garden, but that's her last thing that she gets really involved in and does herself. And she has a special garden called Lady Fleur's Garden, which is all based on this. It's her own decision. She does it herself. She learns by experience, like all gardeners do. And eventually the cousins come to woo her to join her kingdom of Bergamo to theirs, and they give her gifts, and the only person who gives her a gift that will be something that she enjoys is Clovis. He gives her a bulb, and spoilers, but eventually that's, and he decides he's had enough of living in a palace. He goes to Bergamo, where all sorts of things, and this is how it's described, their moment. Clovis was momently dazzled by Lady Fleur's garden. It was like a picture from an illuminated book or a tapestry come to life, a profusion of leaves and extravagance of flowers. The low sunlight warmed all the colours to an unbelievable intensity and richness. The little apple trees heavy with golden fruit, the roses redder and whiter and pinker than any he had ever seen. Ambra stood half-turned towards him against the warm red of the old brick wall. Walled gardens, everybody, are a real bonus for a gardener because they're warm, they look wonderful if they're brick. It's everybody's greatest desire if you're a gardener, as well as a landscape that extends into the horizon after that. Anyway, here we are, which was covered with tiny flowering plants growing in every crack. The little hairy dog, there he is, little hairy dog, head alertly raised among the flowers and the grass at her feet. The picture suddenly broke into movement. The little dog ran towards him barking. Clovis closed the gate and started across the lawn. Ambra wiped her hand surreptitiously on the back of her skirt and smiled at him uncertainly. She's got auburn hair, a bit like Elizabeth I. That's why she's called Ambra. "Your lily has flowered," she said when he stood beside her. They both looked at the flower in awkward silence for a moment. "It's the most lovely thing," she added. "Not quite," Clovis said. Ambra looked at him and pushed a wisp of hair off her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a grubby smear above one eyebrow. "Oh," she said. "I came to answer your..." Clovis began, and almost at the same instant Ambra said hastily, "It's very nice of you, but it wasn't necessary. The others wrote, and anyway, it was obvious, wasn't it?" They'd had a row before they actually came to propose. She smiled slightly. "Was it Clovis?" I said, "Clovis, what was my obvious answer then?" Ambra wondered whether he'd come like this to punish her for a past silliness. She supposed ruefully that she deserved it, and clinging to her smile, she said, "You could hardly be expected to accept terms like that." She said to the other brothers, the princes, that they have to give up their kingdom in order to come and live only in her kingdom. But I have, said Clovis quietly. A couple of tears trickled down Amber's face, and Clovis said quickly, "Don't worry, I understand, you mustn't mind saying no, I shouldn't really have tried to." "Don't be so stupid," said Amber angrily, rubbing her eyes and smudging her face again. "Of course I'm not going to say no, you belong here." "That's true," said Clovis soberly, but he could have shouted aloud with happiness. Now, this is late autumn, so when do you think they were going to have the wedding?
Spring.
They work out that actually they're going to have it on Valentine's Day, and of course there are nothing blooming in the garden really on Valentine's Day, at least then there wasn't. And so they're going to raid the hothouses, which really puts Gabriel Oakmoss back up. Never mind, she's marrying the right person, and everybody's happy, so it's happy ever after.
Bye.
Oh, bye. Suddenly disappears.
Right, my last book for the moment is the stories at Greenough. You might have had these as when you were small. Greenough is based on an actual house in Essex, and Lucy Ann Boston lived there. And Greenough has topiary in the garden, chess topiary, a chessboard, a bit like Through the Looking Glass. And also it has the sort of same wonderful atmosphere as Alice in Wonderland, another garden which you may have thought of. So the Greenough series are also fabulous books that have a gardening theme. And there are lots of others.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I've spoken for it long enough. Who would like to... Josie, you want to go next? Okay.
So I wanted to talk about Madeline Miller's Circe.
Oh, lovely.
So I know there's lots of classicists here who are familiar with the story, but Circe is exiled to an island of her own where she's not allowed to be with anyone, and she initially finds that quite a scary experience, but she does find refuge partially in nature and also creating her own garden. And so there's a few chapters which start with like descriptions of gardens. So I was going to help.
Because she uses them for healing and part of her powers, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yes.
She discovers her power of witchcraft through that and is able to mix different plants from her garden to be able to do that. And there's quite a few like nice pieces of description about her garden at the beginning of chapters. One being, it was morning, the sun just over the trees, and I was in the garden cutting anemones for my table. The pigs snaffled at their slops, one of the boars grew fractious, shoving and grunting to air his authority. I caught his eye. Yesterday I saw you blowing bubbles in the stream, and the day before the spotting sow sent you off with a bitten ear and nothing more, so you must behave. He puffed at the dirt, then flopped on his belly and subsided. And so, yeah, and another bit where she says, it was sunset, my father's face already dipped beneath the trees. I was working in my garden, staking the leggy vines, planting rosemary and aconite. I was singing to some aimless air. The lion lay in the grass, her mouth bloodied from the wood grouse she had flushed. So, but it's just...
Aconite comes in very early in the spring. It's tiny little yellow flower. It's a sort of cross between a best buttercup and a daisy, but it has quite powerful effect on people. So yeah, lovely. Thank you very much, Josie. Thank you. Okay, Ella, do you want to go next?
Sure. Okay, so I'd like to talk about The Secret Garden. Can you hear me? No.
Come closer.
Okay. So Miss Huntley touched on this one, but it's also for me like a defining book. Like through my childhood, I read or listened to it so many times, and then in year 7 we did a project on, I think we all did The Secret Garden, or we did different books, I can't remember, and it was like in the summer term, and it was so lovely, and we all got to like do like loads of creative writing. So yeah, this book has such a special place in my heart. And basically, I'm sure you know the story, but just to summarise briefly, It's about a young girl, Mary, and her parents die in like a tragic illness, I think, and she moves from India to England, and like obviously with the change of weather and the change of environment, she becomes quite isolated, and she's horrible to everyone at the start. She's so rude and like, yeah, she's really just about likeable as a character. But then as she discovers, like Miss Huntley said, the solace of the garden, enjoying spring, enjoying being outside and connected with nature, her personality changes as well, because you can't be a nice person if you don't enjoy things in your life. And yeah, just the descriptions of all the different flowers and tending to this garden, that they turn from like a completely neglected place to somewhere that still brings like joy to them, especially in spring, but in all seasons as well, because like you have to bring, like, it's cliche, but you have to bring love to your garden and your environment to like sow the seeds, like reap the seeds of the effort you've put in. And yeah, it's just like a really beautiful story of friendship as well, and illness and relationships with parents, and how being there for your friends and your community can support you even if your parents aren't around as much as you like. So yeah, really loved it. Can't remember what else.
Was Colin and Dickon?
Oh yeah. So there's two like boy characters she gets to know. There's Colin, who she finds like secreted away in this big old house. Even when she's getting to know the garden, the big house she lives in is still like a total mystery. And he's really ill. He can't get up or walk, but the garden also has like a soothing, healing nature on him. So when he's outside, he's able to get better, to walk again, and become more positive in his mindset as well. And as for Dickon, he's the one that teaches Mary about how to love a garden, how to care for it, what all the different animals are. Like, he's always got so many animals following him, and he comes from a really big family, and in many ways he's much more disadvantaged than Mary, yet he's still able to enjoy his life and like make it a good thing. So I think, yeah, and also like one of the main messages of the book is that as a child you should be outside and exploring nature, which is like so prevalent right now because we spend all our time inside. Like, as soon as you have one lesson in the quad, like your whole mindset changes.
Absolutely.
And you work so much better. Like today, I've been trying to bully all my teachers into having our lessons outside, and it's been partially successful. But it's just, having the sun on your face and being in nature, you feel more inspired and you feel more connected. If you're in some stuffy old classroom they don't put like signs on, or it's only white walls, you're not going to feel inspired because there's nothing around you to see. And also it's really like horrible and depressing. So
Paint trees.
yes, paint trees.
Like,
yes.
paint flowers and like animals and stuff.
Suggestion box. Switch off,
Yeah, like paint. Yeah.
They painted one of the science labs bright white the other day.
Why?
And the lights are also like.
It's because of like cognitive overload.
And it genuinely
Cognitive overload.
feels like you're in a mental asylum. I'm so glad I never have to have a science lesson in there again, because guys, it's driving me a bit mad.
These days they wouldn't dream of painting white. They really wouldn't.
Well, they just did.
No. Asylums.
Oh yes, sorry.
Where places where people recover mental health problems.
Because they realise you've got to be around nature.
Colour schemes are important. That's why.
Colour schemes
Yeah.
are
Certainly are for gardens. Certainly are for gardens.
And textures and smells and
That's why it's a magical place of restoration.
exactly.
Silver green, see? That has grown, funnily enough, since yesterday. Yesterday it was down here. It's grown about 3 inches in the night. Thank you.
Oh, that'll be the respiration. I can tell you the balanced equation if you want it.
Yeah.
Microphone's on you.
Oh, okay. Well, respiration is C6H12O6 plus 6O2 is equal to 6CO2 plus 6H2O. Thank you guys.
Brilliant.
Biology tomorrow. Let's go. It's the opposite.
Oh yeah, round of applause for Hannah, please, as well.
It is a great book. Has everybody read it?
Yeah.
Secret Garden.
Surely.
Yeah?
I've watched the movie and I did a song from it for my grade 3 exam. The Girl I Mean to Be.
Yeah, she told me earlier, and I said she can sing.
No way.
But she does not want to.
Right, who's going next then? Annabelle, no?
I don't have any books
Oh,
about
okay.
gardens.
All
My
right,
favourite
okay,
song
okay.
right now is called Fake Plastic Trees. But
Radiohead.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so good.
I mean, that's
Like,
not got nothing to
Is
do with
it an
gardens. I just want to point that
anti-fake
out.
plastic trees?
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's good. It's a really good song. I recommend listening to
Garden
it.
songs, I'm sure there's.
Oh yeah, Phoebe Bridgers. That one's so good.
Wait, which one?
Garden song.
Oh yeah.
That's so good.
Guys, I love Phoebe Bridgers.
Yeah, Phoebe Bridgers is so good. Have you listened to
Yes,
the
I'll go now.
supergroup Boy Genius?
Yes.
So good.
Are you asking me
so
if I
good.
know Boy Genius? I am Boy Genius.
Yeah.
If Boy Genius was one person, it would
I can
be
play
me.
Not Strong Enough on the guitar.
Quite the revelation.
I can. I love Boy Genius, guys. They're the actual best. And then they. I know, like they all unfollowed each other on Twitter or something, and I saw, and I was like
There was a bit of editing in this one.
devastated. No, we leave this in. It's
Leave
raw,
it in.
raw footage.
Right,
Thank you.
what literature will you be talking about?
Okay,
today?
anyway, I'll be talking about Pride and Prejudice,
Right.
which, if someone asks what my favourite book is, I say it's Pride and Prejudice because it's the easiest answer. And it's also one of my favourite books. Pride and Prejudice, if you don't know, which you should because that's kind of pathetic, is...
We thought Miss Honey was blood sometimes, eh?
I haven't talked to anyone today. I'm getting everything out to now. It is about the 5 Bennet sisters. Lizzie, sorry, I'll go in order of age from oldest to youngest. Jane, Lizzie, Mary, Kitty, Lydia. 5 Bennet sisters who live somewhere in England. Hertfordshire, there we go. Longbourn. They live in Longbourn with their mum and their dad, and their mum's a bit weird, but we love her. And the dad, we basically never see him, but my dad thinks that he is Mr. Bennet, so I hear a lot about him. And it's about Mr. Bingley comes and lives in the manor next to their house in their village, town, and then it's this whole love story, and then there's some drama, and then it's all happy in the end. And someone says I love you most ardently, and it's very romantic, and
The garden.
and there's lots of gardens. They walk everywhere. It's quite a few plot points revolve around gardens. So there's Lizzie walking to Netherfield, which is obviously scandalous because she's got her hems 6 inches deep in mud. There is when what's her name?
Kitty.
No, who's the person who's the really old one?
Lady.
Lady Catherine de Bourgh. There we go. Who comes and she turns up and she's like, "You can't marry my nephew. I'm going to marry him to my daughter," which is a bit weird, but it's not. And which
That's a bit weird.
in Longbourn Garden
In the wilderness.
in the wilderness. And I've actually got a coaster of that page, which is lovely. And then what else includes gardens and Pride and Prejudice? Oh yeah. Well, in the movie, sorry. In the movie, because I can't remember the exact details from the book right now. Pemberley, obviously Pemberley, in all its splendour. Lizzie goes, "Oh my God, wait, hang on." And although she doesn't say, "I married him for his money," I'm just saying her attitude severely changed after she saw Pemberley.
It did.
I'm not insinuating anything there. Well, I mean, she married well for money. Oh my God, guys, that's my year. Weird.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
over, yeah.
Ask her what our rowers.
Huh? Ask her what? We'll shout at them when they come back.
I don't think they'll hear us.
Yeah, they will. I can shout really loud.
They can't respond because
They
they're-
can't.
No, they
They
can't,
don't
but
focus.
I'll still say hi. It'd be quite funny if it did, though.
Yeah. It is about money. It is about money, but it's also about the landscape of Pemberley.
Yes. Anyway, Pride and Prejudice, it's a very summery, fun read. And it's kind of it's just a little bit of relaxation. I read it over the summer when I first read it, and it was lovely. Just like on a deck chair somewhere with your book. In a garden, or like next to a pool or something, just like getting those rays, getting those literatures. It's a new word. Shakespeare did it, I can too.
Okay, we'll adopt it.
Isn't it funny?
Let's see if the cash is on.
This thing called like the prettiest, nicest sister Jane.
Yeah. The prettiest, nicest
Aspirational.
Yeah, she's the prettiest one ever. Yeah. And then Keira Knightley got cast as Lizzie.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bit of an oversight. But okay, anyway. Nothing. Okay, we've already had this discussion many times, and I feel, of course, I've watched the series.
It's so good.
When you know the bit in Barbie where the depression Barbie rewatches the and it goes in 1995 Pride and Prejudice series with Colin Firth. My mum, when we first watched it, looked over me and went, Mike. I didn't mean to be. I didn't come like it was. Yeah, that was. My mum looked at me in a very funny way. She was insinuating that I was Depression Barbie, because I frequently watched the 1995 Pride and Prejudice series with Colin Firth.
It's good.
Exactly.
Yes, precisely.
Oh, don't tell Lily that.
Yeah.
Lily, if you're listening / watching / listening, I'm sorry.
A long time ago, I set Year 10 coursework to analyse the beginning of the film and the beginning of the 1995 movie. Because in those days we did a media coursework, and
Only you missed something. It's so great.
it was it's like when I taught Year 9 about Monsters Inc. and all the things in that.
You made it in assembly.
And it was mentioned in assembly. Yeah, exactly. So. No, you what? We were studying the book. We were studying the book. Anyway, Pride and Prejudice, and so I drew on for the next coursework, which it was going to be in the exam. The next coursework, the beginning of the series and the beginning of the new film. It had just come out, the new film 2005, so that I guess we would have been doing it in 2006. You could do those things in those days. And
I do not want to watch it in those days. I just talk the whole time.
I can see that.
I pinpoint on the movie, like in the miniest details. Like I'm like, oh, his facial expressions kind of win.
Well, that's the sort of thing we had to analyse.
That's how it was.
Too.
That's how it was.
I literally like shout at the characters. Yeah.
Who's on the white horse? Who's on the black horse? What's the music doing? Why is Lizzie outside?
Oh, the hand scene.
Oh my god.
Hand
Hand
scene.
scene. Yes. That's giving heart.
The hand scene. No, the hand scene where Colin Firth touches the other Lizzie Bennet's hand, and then he goes like, okay, if you're listening, go watch the movie. Go watch the movie. It is giving Heartstopper.
That is giving Heartstopper.
Yeah. But it's
like
the best.
when Nick goes and
Well
goes,
done. There we go.
and then he goes.
Got it in.
Yeah, but it did it better.
Yeah.
All right, should we give Marianne a round of applause? Thank you.
Pride and Prejudice.
Absolutely. Okay. Phoebe?
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything today. Oh, I do have something to say. It's not about book, but I've read. So, it's about me reading. So, when I went to Costa Rica over the Easter, there were a lot of nice gardens, and we went to this island thing, and it was like a garden with a beach, and there were hammocks in this garden, and I just read in it.
You read in it.
Yeah, and then there were monkeys in the tree. My dad's like, "There's monkeys in the tree," and I'm like, "I'm. Let me finish my chapter, then I'll come." But
Great place. That's a
Yeah.
great
I
place
read
to read.
5
Annabelle, you're
books
right.
in a week and a
Wow.
half.
Excellent. You are a great reader. Annabelle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall I hold it?
Oh, I can hold. Okay. Well, I don't think it has to be right up to me. I think we just put it like that. That should be fine.
Right. So,
Mr.
Humphreys,
Right.
who has
Shakespeare is my Heartstopper because
Okay.
there we go. There you go.
Guys, I'm
you
so
heard
sad
it.
I've already picked my yearbook quote.
You heard
because-
it. You heard it here first. It's just obviously we had a Shakespeare Litsoc 2 weeks ago, and then in Neil Gaiman I alluded to Shakespeare quite a lot, and now I'm going to do it again because Henry VI Part 1. Okay.
With the flowers.
Yes. Yeah. Basically.
For those of us who
For those who don't know,
Henry VI.
Well, it's
could
one
you
of his
explain?
it's one of his very early plays. At the time when he was considered to be the upstart crow, and the sense that he was. The theory is at this time that he could not have written this because it's definitely up to his usual standards. The quality of the writing is variable, and so they think he must have written it with other people. But that doesn't include the famous scene that Hannah just alluded to. So the basic plot, Wars of the Roses, and this is Henry VI Part 1, but they think he actually wrote it after Part 2 and 3, I believe. I know. But so, quick crash course on Wars of the Roses. Richard II was deposed, and he was Yorkist by Bolingbroke Henry IV, and then Henry V came along. He's the Battle of Agincourt. We few, we happy few, and then his son Henry VI, after his very early death, takes the throne, but he is still to come of age. And because he's still to come of age, there's lots of powerful noblemen who are sort of trying to control him, trying to set the scene. And, long story short, two rival factions form from this. On the one side, you've got Richard, Duke of York, and he picks the White Rose. And then on the other side, we've got Suffolk, who picks the Red Rose. Now, we should add at this point that this is Shakespeare. Now, Shakespeare, great, amazing writer, but probably not a great historian. Someone not to think his scenes are historical fact.
I have no idea what you mean.
Tudor propaganda, because Henry VII essentially, yes, because he wrote during Shakespearean times, pleasing his monarchs, and he essentially came up with the idea that there was a red rose, so he could form the red and white rose together for the House of Tudor. Okay, so there was no, but that doesn't mean it can't stand in the way of a good story. So I'll just read you a little bit of the garden scene. So obviously the action doesn't just take place in a garden, but it is such a pivotal scene, not just in the play, but also the rest of the tetralogy and the Hollow Crown, if you like, all the plays along there. So Richard says. So they're having a bit of an argument. Since you are tongue-tied and so loath to speak in dumb significance, proclaim your thoughts. Let him that is a true-born gentleman and stands upon the honour of his birth, if you suppose that I have pleaded truth, from off this briar pluck a white rose with me. To which Somerset says, let him that is no coward nor no flatterer, so you can see they're quite feisty here, but dare maintain a party over the truth, pluck a red rose from off this thorn with me. Warwick says, I love no colours, and without all colour of base insinuating flattery, I pluck this white rose with Plantagenet. So there you go. There's the birth of the War of the Roses, according to Shakespeare. It's not. There are better Shakespeare plays, but it's the one where the most obvious garden example. I said there are better Shakespeare plays than this one. It's not his greatest. Would you like to disagree with me?
That's debatable. It's quite a good garden scene.
I didn't say it wasn't. I was saying it's a pivotal scene.
In Richard II, where the Queen has an encounter with the garden, and they're talking about the garden as a symbol of the kingdom. It's going to rack and ruin, weeds are growing, etc. And she gets very angry with the gardener, and he says, well, it's bad news. The king is not doing what he should, because Richard II, was not the sort of king that was wanted at the time. He was much more a Renaissance monarch, and seemed to have favourites, and Bolingbroke, usurped him, and that's all the beginning. But we also got Gordon's wonderful speech about England.
Yes.
And Britain.
Yes, on his deathbed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Silver Sea.
Yes. This was the age of courtly intrigue, of course. So factionalism was rife. Yes, Marianne.
Oh, well, we were talking about Shakespearean gardens. Just wanted to talk about Much Ado About Nothing, which you all know.
Much Ado About Nothing. It's the best. I'm doing it in English right now. It's so good.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway, everyone loves Much Ado About Nothing, but I watched a remake the other day with Sydney Sweeney and the other guy who I can't remember, and it was really, really awful. But it was also a very good escapism movie, because I was kind of down in the dumps because I have GCSEs tomorrow, and it was. Oh, thank you for something. I'm gonna need it. It was quite good. What on earth is going on here? Because they did the garden scene, but then they kind of modified it a bit, and then Unwritten became a motif. The song Unwritten came a really. It kept coming up, and then they had a 10-minute montage at the end of just Unwritten, the song of all the cast singing Unwritten.
Oh my god, so weird.
It was.
This isn't the version in black and white, is it?
No.
Oh,
This is new. This is new.
No, I don't like black and white movies.
Let's not go there.
Okay, anyway, this was new. This was out this 2023, 2024. And it was a good movie. Definitely it wasn't a oh my god, that's such a good movie. It was a very good laugh along, escapism, break from thinking movie.
In the original language, or is it?
No. It's a modern adaptation. Yeah, there are some. Yeah, and they didn't do like the death thing as well, so it was like a very weird illusion. Because like it was obviously much ado about nothing because they did the whole garden scene.
Yeah.
But they also didn't include most of Hero and Claudio's plotline.
Oh,
Yeah.
They cannot work you cannot cut any of it out. With Damien Lewis and Sarah, I can't remember now, but because that's modernised. The death scene actually is because, and it's Billie Piper. She.
Love of my life.
They've done it really well, and Claudio and she just have a huge row, and she has an accident, and so she ends up in hospital, and that's how they do that part. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
really like that as well.
There is. You're absolutely right. Yes. Have you been? Did you like it?
Wait, there's what?
There's a Much Ado in the Globe at the moment.
Is there?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I have to go and watch it. I like the one with Emma Thompson in it. That's my favourite one.
That's the go-to really adaptation.
That is the best one.
Okay, time's ticking. I just want to very quick, before I hand back to Priscilla, I just want to very quickly, the reason I'm alerting you to this one is because I know how many big Secret History fans we have in the group. And this is the Cloisters, and essentially the plot is an arts curator. She has a summer internship at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, which of course has a nice, beautiful garden. And unlike the Secret History, the garden plays a very pivotal part because she gets into... There's all sorts of intrigue and shenanigans and murder and all that sort of... But the gardener plays a very pivotal role in it, in helping various people perform these dastardly deeds. That's all I shall say. So yeah, The Cloisters by Katie Hayes.
So that's set in America, isn't it?
Yes, it is set in America. Museum of Metropolitan Art. It is, and it's a very, very rich garden. So, right, back to you, Miss Huntley.
Okay. A couple of things before we finish. Mostly I concentrated on things for children, but one of the most successful plays of the 20th century by Tom Stoppard, Arcadia. I taught this when I was first teaching, and I could not believe that I had the sheer joy of teaching a play that is about, it's not only about gardens, it's about garden history, literature, myths, a house. At the time I was teaching it, I didn't know, because they didn't have the internet or anything, I didn't realise that Tom Stoppard had actually been to Chatsworth, which is also used in the Pride and Prejudice movie for Pemberley, and knew the family, the Cavendishes, well. And so the house that this is set in is a room on the garden front of a very large country house in Derbyshire in April 1809. This is two time frames that converge, and it's one of the funniest plays. I saw Bill Nighy in it, Emma Fielding, Rufus Sewell, names that have continued to resonate throughout into the 21st century. Felicity Kendall, and it's about gardens that metamorphose from pastoral, based on the Greek sort of classicist ideal, into Gothic sort of grottos and things. If you go to Paynes Hill Park in Cobham, you can basically see both. There are grottos and things to do with the Gothic, towers and things, but there's also still a classical landscape where you might see sheep safely grazing. If you don't know this play, it is really worth reading, and it also has a scientific, mathematical element to it as well, because there's data from game books that are being reiterated, and it's about number theory. And Thomasina, who is very, very young,
precocious,
seems to have founded a solution to Fermat's last theorem, which is a mathematical puzzle that puzzled people for years. They seem to have solved it now, but they hadn't in the early years of the 21st century, certainly not in the 20th century. and there's also Lord Byron, who never appears but is talked about. It's just got everything. It's a fabulous Stoppard play. And also Hamlet, Shakespeare, Agnes, Anne Hathaway, Herbs, the garden, all life is there. And we could go on forever. But
We could.
and of course, Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
The Cheshire Cat in his tree, the tiger lilies who speak.
Sorry, what? Did you point at me because I dressed up as the Cheshire Cat for World Book Day? Thank you for pointing that out.
I had a little tail.
Yes, I remember Annabelle. Yeah, there was a few Cheshire Cats. It's always a popular one.
And of course, we're about to have
Looking
the
Glass.
latest
Yeah,
Year 7
the
production,
Year 7 production,
through
yeah.
the Looking Glass. Yeah, absolutely. So I hope you've enjoyed our foray to the river and our look at our garden with its rosemary and lilac and various weeds and the elm trees. We're almost unique actually in having elm trees in this garden, because a lot of elms are sadly not with us anymore, and we've got rambling rector roses that are just about to come out. So happy reading, everybody. Enjoy the sunshine, and we send our best wishes to Year 13 and Year 11 for the marathon. It has already started, and for Year 13 is about to come. So all the best.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Bye.